All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 after the hour, so we want to make sure that we go ahead and respect everyone's time and go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. Now, my name is James Martinez. I am the Assistant Director for Outreach here at the Maryland Davies College of Business. I work specifically with the MBA program that's in terms of outreach, recruitment, and also the admissions process. So we want to welcome you all here and thank you all for joining us this afternoon for our inaugural Leadership Thought Series. So this is the first of what we hope will be many sessions, much like this one where we invite guest speakers to join us and also share their knowledge with our MDCOB students as well as students throughout the University of Houston downtown. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our two speakers, and then I will turn it over to our dean. And before I do that, let me also say, I do ask that you all stay on at the very end of this session. I have a very brief survey to tell us more information about this session, what you thought about it, and also some additional feedback for future topics. So please stay on at the very end. It'll just take you 1 minute to fill out that survey. But without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our speakers. First, our dean, our host of today's session, Dean Jhonathan Davis. Jhonathan Davis serves as a professor of supply chain management and is the dean in the Maryland Davies College of Business here at the University of Houston downtown. Dr. Davis received a PhD in industrial technology from Purdue University. He has an MBA in operations management from St. Edward's University and a bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Texas at Austin. Prior to academia, Dr. Davis spent several years in the semiconductor industry in Austin, Texas, working as a production manager and writer, as well as consulting with distributions and logistics firms. Dr. Davis's expertise in inventory management, logistics, trade, compliance, operations project management, simulation, and operational analytics. So welcome Dean Jhonathan Davis, as well as our guest speaker for the day. His name is Jhonathan David Shaikh. Jhonathan David Shaikh is an international business intelligence data scientist with over 15 years experience in banking and financial services. Jhonathan is the founder and CEO for Savios Data, a New York-based consulting firm that provides data analytics, business intelligence, and artificial intelligence data modeling solutions to United States and international clients. Jhonathan is a graduate of the University of Houston downtown, where he earned a bachelor's degree in international business and finance, and an MBA graduate of Tulane University in New Orleans. Jhonathan also holds certifications in data science, data analytics, credit risk analysis, and is a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Among many outside activities, Jhonathan also hosts a podcast that he's very passionate about on data science, real applications, and is actively involved in his New York, New Jersey community. So let's all welcome Dean Davis and also our guest speaker, Jhonathan David Shaikh.
Thank you very much, James. And I want to say welcome to Jhonathan Shaikh. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your knowledge and passion for your field with us and with our students. I'm going to jump right into the questions because I know we have a limited time and a lot of knowledge to talk about. So the first question I have for you is, what is data science and how has your career evolved through the use of business data?
Sure. Well, Dean Davies and everybody else, very nice to meet you. Pleasure being here with you. Thank you for the invitation. And happy to come back to my alma mater and share some knowledge. And we'll try to make it as exciting and as fruitful as possible for you, so that every time that I'm speaking at any engagement, I think about, if I go to sit down and listen to someone for 20, 30 minutes, do I actually get something out of value that I can apply in my life? So from the bottom of my heart, I hope that that's what I do today for you. The question about what is data science and what is the follow-up to that question, Dean Davis?
How has your career evolved through the use of business data?
Sure. So what is data science? It's a term that it's a hot term right now in many industries, I would say. And every time you ask someone, hey, what is data science? They'll probably say, it has something to do with data. It's something to do with managing data sets. But what data science really is, it is the pinnacle of our current and modern technology when it comes to data. Why? Because it encompasses three parts that are coming together to give us a lot of power and a lot of prediction power on the data that we have. And those three things are advanced statistics, software programming, and machine learning techniques that we can create models under those techniques and give us a great amount of insight into the data that we have. So if somebody asks you, what is data science, and you didn't know about it before, well, data science is the combination of three things. Python programming, usually it's a very well-known software language, advanced statistics, and machine learning. The second part, and one more note on that, data science is the bedrock of what we know today as artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence has many branches. What we know of and what we hear in the market about artificial intelligence is this branch that we talk about, which is machine learning. And so that, in essence, is data science. And how has data science and data affected my life and my career? I spent 14 years or 13 years of my life in banking and financial services. And I started from the bottom of the bottom, which was I was a teller at Bank of America and became a credit analyst for a Texas bank called Allegiance Bank. And later I became an officer of the bank. I became a portfolio manager for the investment side and for the commercial side. And lastly, I moved to New York to work in technology for the bank. So I have seen banking from many sides, from the ground up. And what I discovered throughout that journey is that when we go into banks and when we go into financial services, really what we're dealing with is a lot of data. Banks are really not currency holding organizations, but in the future, and today, they are our data storage of value warehouse. And in that big warehouse, there is a lot of data. And once I discovered I wanted to be a data science, I said to myself, well, where in the world can we find lots of data? Actually, in banking. So I started my career in data science as a data modeler and followed that with becoming part of the regulatory compliance group at a global consulting firm here in New York City that actually vetted data models for banks, and eventually decided to start Savios Data, which is a data science analytics firm using data models for different types of clients. And we serve clients in Texas, we serve clients in Mexico, we serve clients in New York City. And that has, hope that answers your question, that what is data science and how it has evolved within my career.
So yeah, thank you. You've talked a lot about data and the fact that it's used in banking and in your career. Can you share an example of where data science has directly influenced one of the key business decisions or outcomes that you've been involved with?
Absolutely. I will think about two that are very well known. Every time someone requests a loan or requests a relationship online with the bank goes through a process of vetting whether the customer is legal or not, or has any type of background that may negatively affect the bank. So it goes through a process of an anti-model research and a know your customer research. And it does this through the use of data. The bank also, once it accepts a relationship, whether the relationship is a consumer relationship, a commercial relationship, an investment relationship, has to make decisions on whether or not that financial instrument that that customer is acquiring is going to be fulfilled, meaning if it's going to be repaid in the case of a loan. And they do that by creating probability of default models and loss grade default models, which can actually predict the likelihood of, in our case, a loan may go bad or not, or how much or what quantity of those loans, when they are lent to the masses, will actually go bad. And so they can sort of foresee the future with a probability of default model. And that's what data scientists do in banking, in data science.
Yeah, I can see the power of a model like that and the ability to, as you say, see into the future. But in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that businesses face when trying to integrate those kind of data-driven insights into their decision making?
It's a great question, Dean Davies. There's a survey at I would take a step back. There's a survey at Gartner, which is a well-known research firm, that says that in any given industry, data science projects fail at a 97% rate. That's the reason why Savios exists, right? Because we build models that don't fail. And when you think about data science, you want to think about it in the context of, just like when you go to a doctor, think of it this way. When you go to a doctor and the doctor is a general doctor, he has to look at your body. And then if you have a pain in your knee, he will send you to the knee doctor, right? So he'll send you to an orthopedist. So the same thing happens in our business at Savios Data when a customer comes in with their data set and asks us, hey, what can we actually do with this data set? Or I have pain points in this data set. It's not clean. It's not well organized. It's not well structured. I don't know how to derive value from it. We find the part that needs to be fixed. And we install a scientist that can actually build a model for that data or under that data. So in that way, businesses behave the same way, right? And you have to think about it from a macro perspective. What industry are you in? Are you in the healthcare industry? Are you in the banking industry? Are you in the trade and export business? Or are you in education? Those data sets are really a universe on their own. And they're different. And so because they're different, they are approached different by different data scientists.
So just to follow up on that, the biggest challenge you would say in data-driven insights is simply the diversity of data and data integrity and data quality, and the character of the data available to any particular business for a particular need.
Yeah. So elaborating more on the challenges is we can navigate pretty much any data set, but we need to have subject matter expertise on the industry to understand what that data is actually telling us.
Mm-hmm. So depending on the industry, how important do you think data science is for being competitive in the business landscape?
I think it's a key success factor in today's world. I don't think that you can win without it anymore. And I think that large corporations have already noted the fact that this technology exists. And now it's going to trickle down to middle market, middle-sized corporations of every industry. And then it will eventually trickle down to small businesses.
So that's interesting, if I could follow up on that, because what I'm hearing you say is a couple of things simultaneously. One, this is extremely important. In fact, it sounds like you would say it's a requisite for success, competitive success, but that it's also extremely hard to do, and 97% of data projects fail, which suggests large gaps between the businesses that get it right and the ones that don't. Would you say that's how would you characterize that, what I just said?
Yeah, you have to understand that there is, in the spectrum of data, there's data analytics, and then there's complex and non-complex problems there. There's data science, and then there's complex and non-complex there. The complex projects and some of the non-complex in data science fail at a very high rate. The analytics side of it doesn't really fail at much of a higher rate. I don't know what the rate is, but it's relatively simple to conduct analytics on data sets. So just to make the difference between those two, data analytics and data science, and what that means with that fact that when we do data science itself, yes, 97% of those projects fail for a number of reasons, including the lack of business expertise. And that's why business knowledge is important in adapting these technologies.
Okay. So it's important. It can be done.
Mhm.
At the same time, budgets are not infinite. So how can businesses measure the ROI of their data science initiatives?
That's a great question. I will answer it twofold. On the first fold is our clients have to measure the return on investment on the time that we will spend in their business and with their data, and what outcome are we going to produce for them. So let me give the best way to understand abstract concepts is to land them into real world examples. I'll do that right now. We had a customer who is a real estate investment company and had about $5 million in budget to conduct renovations in a specific market, in a specific data set house of about 30,000 different values that the data set holds. Remember, your mind cannot read 30,000 values and understand what's underneath them, but data science can, analytics can. And so what we discovered when we navigated that data set is that in that market, with those parameters, during that period of time, the houses that had a kitchen at the bottom will sell regardless of whether or not renovations were done to them. So we save money to the client by going in, cleaning up the data set, navigating the data set, understanding some of the analytics, some of the correlations that our eyes could not see. And that's a great way of really landing the fact that, look, how important is this for business, right? What's the impact, right? And what value can be derived from this technology? So that's a prime example of what it can do. Now, in terms of return on investment, for us, is we do our own pricing model, and that's when business understanding comes in and finance understanding comes in the amount of hours that and brain power that we have to put into downloading the data sets, navigating the data sets, cleaning the data sets, making them look visually appealing, and then running models on that data set. And so sometimes that could take us 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes it can take us 7 weeks. And so we measure our ROI based on this on a model that we have created for ourselves, because we understand the time that it takes to put into those models, and we put a price to our time. And that's how businesses measure their ROI, and we measure our ROI.
So that makes sense for ROI being relative to the time it takes you and your expenses versus actual inputs, income that changes as a result of the work. In your experience, are there other key indicators that show that the data science work is driving success in the business?
Yes. The other key indicator from a business perspective is the actual business result. That's how you measure it. So, for example, recently we went through a campaign, as you know, a political campaign, and part of our team was hired by members of a political campaign that were going into different neighborhoods in the tri-state area to try to recruit volunteers. And so they wanted to know, we built a model for them that predicted which houses they needed to go and knock on, that with an 88% probability and accuracy will say yes to volunteering.
Wow. So
this is ROI in the making, and this is ROI landed, I think. Okay. And that's why we love what we do. because we know that if we're giving data sets, we can do amazing things with them. And we can bring ROI to our clients.
Thank you. Let me shift gears a little bit and go back to something you mentioned earlier. You talked about machine learning and data science generally having a large role in artificial intelligence. What role is artificial intelligence playing in the evolution of your work in data science and analytics?
It's playing a pivotal, life-changing, stressful role, because the capacity at which we are able to process data now and the models of prediction are getting better and better, and they're getting better faster. So when we use tools for modeling, we might be using a tool today that we're not going to use in 6 months from today, because the technology will change. Now, this might be important for the audience to know that when you talk about artificial intelligence in the context of our society today, we're really talking about 12 to 15 different types of machine learning models that are utilized to go about saying that we have artificial intelligence. So, for example, when you go into Netflix and you pick your movies, there's an algorithm behind it that can start tracking what you like and start recommending you movies. That is an artificial intelligence model called a recommendation system, or it can be looked at as an artificial intelligence model that also uses machine learning and thus AI to do this. And like that, we have a many of models that can be used to predict things.
So you mentioned there, you said, I think the number 12 different kinds of artificial intelligence types of systems. I can imagine that the one on the audience's mind right now are the ones that are in the news right now, which are your large language models, the chat GPTs of the world. In terms of, not necessarily exclusive to those, but for AI in general, do you have advice for our audience, which is comprised of both students who are beginning a career or about to begin a career, but also people who may be mid-career? Do you have advice for our audience about how they need to engage with artificial intelligence to ensure that they have tools for their career?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, I do. I would tell you that don't be scared. Don't be anxious. What's happening right now is what happened this is a revolution, right? And think of it as the new car, right? When we as humans were in horses and somebody invented the car, and now you look at our cities, now the car, everybody has a car. All the cities have pavement, so those cars can run into and run on. It's the same thing that we're experiencing now with artificial intelligence. It will permeate all aspects of our lives, just like cars did it when they came out, and it will modify the way in which we conduct our life. But very essential things will remain. So I will give you an example of my area of expertise in banking, which is credit risk management and lending for both commercial and investments. When that industry started, the industry lending started, it dates back all the way back to the Sumerian civilization. So 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And the Sumerians used to have clay stones where they will record who owed them money and by how much in clay stones, right? And then we moved to paper, right? And then we got the pencil. And then now we record it with pencil. And then we started recording with a pen, right? And then we use the pen. Everybody uses the pen. And then we moved into computers. And now we created Excel. And so now we can record those things on an Excel. So you see the evolution of lending and the tools that were used. The tools have been changing over time, but the basic and essence of our humanity has not changed. We still need lending. So the car, we used to walk, then we use horses, then we use cars, then we use planes. Now we're going into space. So our tools have changed over time, but our essential need for traveling and transporting, it's the same. So I would say to people that we are in that transformation right now with artificial intelligence. And this is something that comes up at every conference that I speak at. I spoke in Mexico City to a group of about 500 business owners who were trying to, and from that we got some clients actually, but they were trying to see, hey, what is data science? How can we implement this? They were so nervous and they were so anxious, but look, we're human and we can learn things. So no matter where you are in life, young, mid-age, older, you can learn. That hasn't changed. So you can learn like us from the ground up and know how to build these models and get into the industry, or you can learn how to use the tools that are available to you that are already built. So you don't have to learn how to make a car to ride a car. You don't need to know how to make AI, but you need to know how to use AI. So I will recommend people to familiarize themselves with the AI tools that are readily available to them. And just like they learn how to drive a car, learn how to use those tools.
All right. Thank you. Good advice. Let me shift gears back to sort of data science in general. What is the role of not artificial intelligence, data science? What is the ethical concerns that are faced by businesses when implementing solutions in data science, particularly with regard to customer data?
Yeah. I would say model biases. Model biases come, and it is harder with, it is not harder, it is more pressing on policy decision making and healthcare decision making, because sometimes we get data sets that only talk about one type of description of people, right? But we don't include another data set that incorporates other types of people. I'm talking about gender differences. I'm talking about cultural differences. I'm talking about everything that makes us different humans, right? Mm. So when we make predictions about healthcare, we can be very accurate or we can be very dead wrong. So we can be very accurate. For example, I run a podcast that you mentioned that, and I met with the head of the Weill Cornell lab here in New York that uses data science to predict luminal breast cancer, which is the cancer for women that affects them the most, right? Why are they successful in now predicting whether a woman is going to have luminal breast cancer in 5 years from now or not? It's because it's a homogeneous data set. Women between the ages of X and Y located in this region, right? But if you were to make that assumption about other illnesses, you wouldn't be that accurate, because now you need to incorporate, and if you do it only with women of X amount of age in X, that model will have a bias towards that group, right? So I will say the biggest challenge is that bias, is that when, as data scientists, we use data sets. That's why I was saying at the beginning, we got to have subject matter expertise, because a subject matter expert will understand the differences of the populations in each area and is able to say, hey, maybe we need to incorporate more data about this so that the model can actually make predictions covering everyone.
So would you say that the lack of subject matter expertise is the driver most of the time of these ethical misuses of data science? in your
I think
experience?
it's a combination of things. I think that's one component. Um, and I think it's also a matter of consciousness, right? It's a matter of education. So right now, what you're going to see, for example, on the regulatory side, is you're going to see a lot of regulations that will govern AI. And so that's what we're now paying attention to. And that's another component, is the lack of regulation and is the lack of direction as to what to do with this data. So that's another challenge. Expertise, lack of regulation, but you will see more regulation as we go along. And I go back to the car example. Same thing happened with us when we use the cars.
Nice. So all of this is going to lead to something. What do you see as the future of data science?
Oh, the future of data science. I see the future of data science as part of every single business that we're going to work with and on. So, and I think the future of data science will be the genesis of many human decision making that before was done only on expertise on human knowledge. So I think data science is going to come and add to sort of that expertise, human knowledge, and now we're going to add data science to really modify the way we go about making decisions. Data science, to me, it's not a technology, it is a way of thinking about the world.
So I'm going to follow up on that with a question, but I'm going to ask our audience to be thinking about their own questions because we're going to have time for a good back and forth from the audience members. So my follow-up question for you before we get to that, while they're thinking, is do you have some sense of what data science and its sort of children technologies, AI and machine learning and all those, do you have a sense of what will be possible down the road that maybe wasn't possible in the past or isn't quite possible now?
Yeah. Well, remember that data science is the base for artificial intelligence. So remember that I also said that we're becoming faster and better at building models that can predict things. So in the art of the possible, I think that this is a superpower that we have obtained. So from every single decision making in your life, you can apply data science and try to ensure better outcomes for you, your family, your business, if you deploy data science. So I think, like, again, I think data science will permeate every single business and will permeate every part of our lives.
So when you, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what's possible is we're going to be able to predict diseases. So I'm a cancer survivor from the medical center in Houston.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's why I went to UHT, because I would go to the hospital, get on a train, and then go to class. And so for me, what we are going, we're gearing up to go into the healthcare industry and try to see what we can do there. For me, the possible for me would be, can I predict diseases, right? I love education. I love to teach. And for me, it would be, can universities predict the amount of students that will be eventually successful in this field, or what would be the most likely field that they will be successful on given this parameters, right? So really, the art of the possible is within our imagination, is the questions that we ask the data. Because that data, as long as we have more data, we can ask a lot of things that our brain right now cannot even fathom.
Have the data and the creativity and expertise to frame the question.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Because a lot of this does seem to be contingent upon the imagination of framing the right question and imagining that it's possible for the data to tell you the answer.
Yes.
You mentioned a second ago about you think the future holds that every business will engage with data science, whether it's AI or machine learning or some other aspect of data science.
Correct.
And every business includes the giant multinationals that we could all have in our heads right now, or the smaller mom and pop or medium-sized organizations that maybe we've never heard of, but they far outnumber those ones we have heard of. So how is it that those smaller business, the mom and pops, the medium size, can leverage data science to be successful and maybe even be more competitive than they've been before with those major household names?
I'll give you a real life example. I have a non-for-profit in Colombia, South America, and our goal is to help entrepreneurs that have barriers to enter the regular and common commercial marketplace. And we have adopted 3 businesses. This is a very small non-for-profit. We have adopted 3 businesses, and we gave them 3 things. We gave them access to small capital, access to knowledge, and access to capital or to social capital, right? That's why they remain poor, right? Because they don't have those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we went in with one of them specifically, these are 2 girls in Colombia, South America, that sell juices in soccer fields. And this is how they make $100 every week to live, okay? To live on. When we discovered them and we noticed that they were selling this juice, we started running the analytics on all the fields that they were going to sell at. We did this in a pro bono basis. Mm-hmm. And we told them exactly with analytics, without even running data science models, just doing analytics on the data of that town that they work on. We told them exactly which fields they should go into to have more sales. We quadrupled their sales. Wow. In a matter of 6 months. And today, those 2 girls make $400 each on a per monthly basis. So they fundamentally change their life by the use and application of data analytics in a small business set. So if a small business like them can make this minor adjustments by just analyzing the data of the town they live in and where they sell their product, imagine what small businesses can do to sell their products in a much smaller scale.
You're making me remember my days as a 10-year-old at garage sales running a lemonade stand, selling lemonade for 25 cents per cup. Yeah. And I'm wishing that I had somebody like you to help me analyze the garage sale market.
I would have helped you.
Yeah.
Dean Davies, right. I can be talking to the president of a trade and export company in Austin that exports 10 million tons of produce from South America to the United States, and building their business intelligence dashboard. Like, I can influence poor neighborhoods in Latin America, for example, that need this help. So big and small, like you ask, how is this going to permeate? It can really apply everywhere. And remember, it's a way of thinking about the world and about using data that's available in the world for your advantage.
Oh, thank you. That's a great answer. I appreciate that story. And it leads to my last question, I promise, which is really an access question. Those 2 girls who benefited from that data analysis were fortunate to have the access to the skill set that you brought to bear and helped them. And so it's obvious how they could use that to improve their circumstances with data, and everyone all the way up to a multinational could. What are the concerns, and maybe it's an ethical question or maybe it's an operational question. What are the concerns around access to data science for people all over the world who are in a competitive marketplace, but might risk being overwhelmed by the differential access that is available for data science?
Yeah, we are in a new skin right now as to what is valuable for us as humans. Um, and this is one of the challenges that I have, for example, with data privacy. When I speak to a middle market corporation, I don't know, $8 million in sales, um, they're very protective of their data. They don't want to share it, right? Uh, they don't even want to publish the results because that's now their competitive
Hmm.
advantage. Um, they're not letting us use what we have done for them so that we can go and expand, right? They just want us to be with them. Um, and so we're going to face new challenges because we have some power now. We have a new power in our hands, just
Hmm.
like when we created the gun, right? Just when we created firearms.
Hmm.
This is a new superpower. It's there are going to be a lot of ethical questions, a lot of regulatory questions. We don't know. We don't know what the answer is. We just need to try to make it work for the vast majority of us so that everybody has access to this technology.
Yeah. Important for consideration of everyone here going forward, I think. Well,
Yes.
that's all of my questions. Thank you for your terrific answers and engaging me in a back and forth. And even though I threw you some curveballs there,
That's great. No,
I want to turn it over to James Martinez again to see if we have any audience questions or if he has a path forward for that.
Yeah, thank you, Dean Davis. So as Dean Davis mentioned a few moments ago, this is a great opportunity for you all in attendance to ask any questions that you would like. Feel free to drop those in the chat. If you drop those in the chat now, we can monitor those a little bit more easily and have those answered right away. So here's first question. As companies integrate data science, machine learning, and AI, what steps can be taken to protect proprietary enterprise data?
that's a good question. Thank you. Thank you for asking it, Rick. Uh, the steps that can be taken, they can be taken from different areas. What I have seen in banking and financial services is that one of the ways to protect data is to actually create policies and procedures that that are able to surveil what's been going on and what's been doing with that data. So I worked in the regulatory and compliance side of a consulting firm for data models. So my job was to review the documentation about the models that were created, right? And those models, that documentation will then go into the government for them to approve it or not. So that's one step that you can take to protect enterprise proprietary data. It create your own policies and procedures as to how the management of that data is going to come about. I hope that helps in some way.
No, I think that's perfect. Thank you. Another one that I had sent to me a direct message. Can you talk a little bit about the impact on artificial intelligence on future job growth and decline? I know there was a question earlier about AI and kind of the future. Can you talk a little bit about impact of AI on future job growth or potentially
Yeah,
loss?
I I see it now in banking, for example, and just a quick stop to talk to Rick. Rick, what I gave you was one aspect of how you can protect proprietary data from a from a risk management perspective on a law and regulation side. But there's other things from the technology side, and there's other things from the fraud side that you will have to do to protect that data, right? Like cybersecurity or on the technology side, for example. I just want to make that difference.
That's clear. Thank you.
Okay. Um, James, repeat the question, please.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the impact of artificial intelligence on future job growth or even
Okay, yeah.
decline?
Yeah, I see it now. think that artificial intelligence will wipe out at least 40% of banking jobs in the next 7 to 15 years. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. The traditional roles. And I can tell you that from experience because I was an analyst, I was a risk officer, underwriter, portfolio manager. And with artificial intelligence, I can do 4 jobs. If I'm given certain tools, I can do 4 jobs to, let's give you a real example. I manage a $1 billion portfolio for BBVA Compass. That $1 billion portfolio, I needed 4 analysts, 2 underwriters, myself, and about 3 or 4 people in booking the loans or booking the financial programs that we were approving or disapproving. If I'm given certain tools of AI that I know of now, I can do that job with 3 people, myself and 2 more people. So yeah, about 5 jobs are gone. But because there will be, so those are the jobs that are going to be gone. The ones that we do repetitive things, I think they'll be gone. But then there's opportunity as well, because I'm an example of that, right? I started learning how to make AI models or data science models and how to think in terms of data analytics. And now I'm a consultant to banks on data analytics. So now I consulted with Fitch Ratings, for example, on their interface on how, and simple things like how should they portray their data to their customers online, right? That's opportunities. And there's opportunities in design, in human design, for a lot of folks, right? So yeah, we're going to lose a lot of things and we're going to gain a lot of things. To really gauge that number or get a metric, it's hard to tell. But in my industry, in banking and financial services, 40% of jobs, I don't think they're necessary.
All right, here's another one that I think kind of builds on where we're at right now. So you mentioned that data science involves a specific way of thinking. How can we as educators provide the skills for our students or the skills that our students need to conceptualize projects through the lens of a data scientist?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. I think that you should, and I'll tell you this from experience as well. I did an MBA program, and when I did it, there was no incorporation of AI or data science into the curriculum. This being such a powerful force of nature and of human history, to not see a data analytics intro, a data science intro as part of the syllabus in a class or in a program, today will be concerning to me as a professional. So let's land it. Let's talk about business. And I know UHT has now developed a data analytics program for the College of Business, which I think it's fabulous. If I'm a CEO and I'm hiring for someone to administer projects of data science, I would want them to know a little bit about data analytics and data science, because they're going to be dealing with the technicians, which are the data scientists, even though they're managers and trained to be managers. So I would incorporate, if I was a teacher, and remember, I'm biased because I'm a data scientist, so I want to teach this. But I would incorporate it some way, somehow within the curriculum. And don't deprive your students from this very powerful tool that I have exposed to you, real examples of what we're doing in the industry and the impact that this has. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome, thank you so much. Here's another. What are the top priorities for an organization where data science can add value? And they're asking for maybe an example in finance.
Okay, say that again.
Yeah, one more time. What are the top priorities for an organization where data science can add value? And then they ask for an example in finance if you have one.
Yeah, I mean, if you break down the functions of banking, they can all in some way be inserted with data science or analytics or AI. A real example is I worked for Genpact International for 3 years when I moved to New York, and I was a subject matter expert on digital transformation for the credit risk modeling side of a bank. And in running those projects, what we brought to the clients, we brought natural language processing, which is a machine learning model, which is a data science model, which is an AI model, into the underwriting process and financial analysis of the bank. So a credit analyst would take 2 hours transposing the data from documents that they received, such as tax returns, income statements, et cetera, and then input that data into the system of the bank. And that process can take an hour and a half, or sometimes 2 hours, depending on the documentation. Well, with the technology that we brought to them, we can scan it with optical character recognition, lift up the data, put it through a natural language processing model, and have that same process down to 15 minutes. So from 2 hours to 15 minutes. Now, if you do the math at an enterprise level, you can see the savings of this technology and the increase in efficiency, effectiveness, and optimization. So that's one example in finance. That's just one financial analysis, financial statement underwriting. That's just one example and one technology.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's amazing. It's a really good example, and I think speaks to the individual's question. I want to make sure that we get everybody out on time, and I do have a quick post-event survey for everyone. So let me go ahead and wrap us here. Jhonathan Shaikh, thank you so much for joining us. Dean Davis, thank you so much for hosting the session for us. Again, this is the first one that we have done, so I want to say thank you to both of you, and thank you to everyone who attended.